Coming up on the Forum, connecting and reconnecting fathers with their children. Hear from a local dad and the passionate people who help. Plus, reality versus myth in the continuing battle against HIV/AIDS. You'll be surprised at how much you don't know. On Human Services Forum, beginning right now. Hi, I'm Jan Callahan. Welcome to the Forum. The structure of the American family has changed drastically over the past 50 years. For instance, the U.S. Census Bureau reports that 41% of our nation's children are born to single mothers, while 1 out of every 3 children are raised in families without biological fathers. And what does this mean to us, our community, and the world at large? We'd like to welcome Jill Baker, who is a program manager with the Norfolk Department of Human Services. We have Brian Hawkins with the Virginia Beach Department of Human Services, who is also committee chair for the Regional Fatherhood Initiative and Strengthening Families Initiative, which is a statewide look at what we can do to strengthen families. And also joining us is Tim Price. And Tim Price is a dad, and a dad of twins, no less. And he has his own perspective to share on the importance of fatherhood. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I had a lot to say in there, and I thought maybe I should just let you explain it. Family, the Strengthening Families Initiative is something that it's a mouthful, but it is a very important umbrella under which a lot of important components lie. So we have in the state of Virginia this initiative, which has, my understanding, is 3 main points to it.
Right. The 3 main goals of the Strengthening Families Initiative statewide is to reduce non-marital births, to reconnect or connect fathers with their children, and then the third one is to encourage 2-parent families if that can happen in a safe and nurturing way. So Norfolk has been fortunate to be chosen as one of 23 localities to look at how we can introduce the Strengthening Families Initiative into our city. It's extremely important that we use our faith-based and community organizations to help us. Generally, when a crisis happens in a family, the first line of intervention is the family. The second line of intervention is the community organizations, the support systems, faith-based organizations, and the third line of intervention is the government. Unfortunately, I think what's happened in Norfolk, but probably statewide, is that the number 2 intervention has sometimes become the government. So this really is looking at how do we engage our community partners, our faith-based organizations, and anybody else that can provide that support system for families so that when there are questions, whether it be about fatherhood or about just strengthening the family or any crisis that happens, that the family has somebody to go to, that it doesn't end up being a report to Child Protective Services or some other intervention through the government.
Okay, well put. And that, yes, the whole CPS aspect, although it's important to have it there, there are other ways to perhaps approach some of the issues that we have going on in the community, and they're not uncommon issues.
And certainly the goal would be to prevent if there are enough community organizations and faith-based organizations, you know, the goal is to prevent that family from ever having the situation to get so bad that it has to bubble up to a CPS issue.
So making those resources not only available but known.
Exactly, and accessible.
That is a real challenge, and you'll see that's a theme throughout most of the shows that we've been doing lately, is trying to get the community together to provide that kind of pathway to assistance that doesn't involve a lot of other agencies and government, if at all possible. Brian, I know you're with the Department of Human Services in Virginia Beach, but you also have a very important role in this Strengthening Families Initiative in terms of the fatherhood aspect. And very interesting part of it, and of course we all assume, you know, dads are dads, but there's a lot that goes on when you're a dad.
Yes, it is, and you're right. And the leadership from the state down, being Commissioner Brown, is saying that the emphasis should be put on the family. And I guess in my mind, we're putting social back into social work, understanding that we have to develop relationships, meaningful relationships with the people who we service. And I grew up in the city of Norfolk. I live in the city of Norfolk, so therefore the people in my community are the people who I serve, who I care about. And what we're finding out now is that when we look at deficits in reference to healthy children, we're finding out that when a father's not there, education is impacted, our children's health is impacted, poverty levels goes up. And not just that, later on, meaningful relationships and how they develop relationships with other people is greatly impacted. The leadership is saying that we just need to start looking at how do we incorporate men who may not have been in the family, want to be in the family, but didn't understand how to communicate effectively, struggling with their own personal issues, may have come up in a community where fathers were not really present or didn't have any fathers in their home. And it just doesn't stop there. It also says, what about the person who was in a home with a father, who may have had the role, coming home, I give my money to the family, I want to go in my room, I want to eat. Children, go see your mother if you have any issues. How do we get him to begin to understand that part of this is also engaging with your children, and that his role is to be able to speak affirmation over his children and let them know how much he loves them? See, many of us as fathers think that when we give money, that should be enough. And we're finding out that our children need more than just that. So in engaging this father, especially when they come to the agencies, we're finding out is that there's a whole nother side to this very child who we're focusing on. Not just the mother's side, but the father has resources on his side also. And so the goal here, I think, and Jill said it correctly, is to look at how we can prevent children from coming into foster care, how we can prevent child abuse, how we can eradicate children not having meaningful men in their lives, and how to go from the processing stage to the application stage is where we're working. So that's where the group and the community organizations come in hand.
Yeah, finding not just discovering what the need is and what the solution is, but how to get there.
How to get there.
Right. And Tim, you have been working with Brian, and you have your own story about being a dad, and in your case, you're a dad of two that happen to be the same age.
Yes, indeed. I am. We are father. I have twins, and I wanted to better myself as a father, and so I got involved with the Fathers in Training group that Brian runs, and they're very passionate about what they do, and it certainly helps out in having a place to go to learn and have a forum to discuss some of the issues that we deal with as new fathers, and the huge responsibility it is to be a father, and to be a good role model.
Yeah. And it's not as easy, or maybe when you first got into the situation of being a dad, there were a few surprises.
Definitely. Well, I was fortunate enough to come from a very loving home, and I did lose my father about 5 years ago, and so I don't have a place to go to ask any of these questions. So this is a great place, like I said, to be in a room with other fathers in a similar situation as myself, and the most important thing to me is to be in those kids' lives.
Has it changed you?
Most definitely, and the communication skills that they teach, as well as conflict resolution and support systems that you need, definitely make you realize what's important, and that's to make things work for the kids.
Kids that are now at 1, which is
old,
a
yes,
very interesting, interesting age.
Definitely.
And and your family and those who are close to you are also responding to the things that you were learning?
Definitely. The mother has definitely noticed some differences in my communication skills, which can always just put my best foot forward and work towards a better future.
All right. I wanted to just pause for a moment. Thank you, Tim. We have a video, and we actually have a couple of them. I don't know if we'll have enough time for both of them. One of them is a young man who has written a poem, and he basically is speaking this to a group, but it's very moving, and it'll give you a sense of, from the child's perspective, how it can be very, very frustrating when you don't have that person to turn to. So if we could just go ahead and show the young man on stage, and it's entitled Knock Knock.
As a boy, I shared a game with my father. Played it every morning till I was 3. He would knock, knock on my door, and I'd pretend to be asleep till he got right next to the bed. Then I would get up and jump into his arms. Good morning, Papa. And my papa, he would tell me that he loved me. We shared a game, knock, knock, until that day when the knock never came. And my mama takes me on a ride past cornfields on this never-ending highway till we reach a place of high, rusty gates. A confused little boy, I enter the building carried in my mama's arms. Knock, knock. We reach a room of windows and brown faces. Behind one of the windows sits my father. I jump out of my mama's arms and run joyously towards my papa's, only to be confronted by this window. I knock, knock, trying to break through the glass, trying to get to my father. I knock, knock as my mama pulls me away before my papa even says a word. And for years he has never said a word, and so 25 years later I write these words for the little boy in me who still awaits his papa's knock. Papa, come home, 'cause I miss you. Miss you waking me up in the morning and telling me you love me. Papa, come home, 'cause there's things I don't know, and I thought maybe you could teach me how to shave, how to dribble a ball, how to talk to a lady, how to walk like a man. Papa, come home, 'cause I decided a while back I want to be just like you, but I'm forgetting who you are. And 25 years later, a little boy cries, and so I write these words and try to heal and try to father myself, and I dream up a father who says the words my father did not. Dear son, I'm sorry I never came home. For every lesson I failed to teach, hear these words. Shave in one direction with strong, deliberate strokes to avoid irritation. Dribble the page with the brilliance of your ballpoint pen. Walk like a god, and your goddess will come to you. No longer will I be there to knock on your door, so you must learn to knock for yourself. Knock, knock down doors of racism and poverty that I could not. Knock, knock on doors of opportunity for the lost brilliance of the black men who crowd these cells. Knock, knock with diligence for the sake of your children. Knock, knock for me, for as long as you are free, these prison gates cannot contain my spirit. The best of me still lives in you. Knock, knock with the knowledge that you are my son, but you are not my choices. Yes, we are our father's sons and daughters, but we are not their choices. But despite their absences, we are still here, still alive, still breathing, with the power to change this world, one little boy and girl at a time. Knock, knock, who's there? We are.
Oh, those boys are much too much. Those boys are much too much. We got the spirit. We're hot. We can't be stopped. We got the spirit. We're hot. We can't be stopped. We're going to beat them and bust them.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life.
Let's get a little bit rowdy. R-O-W-D-Y.
Take time to be a dad today. Call or visit fatherhood.gov to learn more.
Well, so there you go. We gave you a couple of examples of just different perspectives on fatherhood. They were excellent, entertaining, and very, very moving. The young man in the beginning. I don't know, perhaps you are familiar with them because of the involvement you have, but those are the kinds of messages that we're trying to send out to get people maybe to respond and get involved.
Sure.
But it's just one portion of it, and that is the rest of it's going to take our community.
Yes.
And our dads.
Absolutely.
And our mothers.
Right, right. It's family-based. It's family engagement, and it's done with respect. You know, those PSAs really hit home. One of them with the cheerleader dad says that he has a lot of courage, because it didn't matter who was watching him. Right. He understood the importance of working and being there with his daughter. And the first person who spoke, he spoke from his heart. And what it sounded like to me is that he was saying that I have a hole that needs to be filled, and Father, I need you to do that. And I think from the agencies and the communities and the organizations that we're working with, we're trying to do a holistic thing. And the agencies need to understand that we're going to try to strategically put ourselves in places where we can be successful. There are things that social services can do, but there are other things that businesses and organizations can do. There are community and churches who have different relationships with the families that we're serving, that they need to have their role. I kind of say if we get in our lane and we stay in our lane, we can collectively form what we call a safety net for families. We go through the father to get to the family. And we want to make sure that we give him the tools that he needs in order to be the best that he can be, because we can link these successes with his success. Now, mothers need to know that we're not trying to replace them. We just want to be beside them as we co-parent.
And Tim, you, of course, are living proof that getting involved with your family and your children early on can already make a difference, because you feel different. Even just being a dad, but just also having the tools and getting the tools to really be the best dad you can be.
Definitely. The participation in the lives of my children is paramount right now.
Yeah.
You know, and I certainly will do whatever it takes and go to any lengths necessary.
What would you tell dads that are out there that have, you know, are maybe doubtful or don't really know?
Well, it's a very positive thing. I mean, most people would see it as being that you're being made to go there, and the majority of the guys are self-referrals like myself, just trying to get a perspective on the right way to raise your kids and be a part of their lives. You know, it is a different day and age now, and it's not easy. It's tough to orchestrate all the different things, from the relationship to the parenting to the communication, and I would just recommend it to anyone who's a new father, or even someone who's got 3 or 4 kids. They're, you know, it's a great way to see how things should be done and the right way to do it.
Well, and I can't think of a better example than a dad himself who has gone through this, and I know it's hoped that with his experience that might actually touch other lives and people will learn about it. So what you're doing is very important and could take a lifetime to learn, but that's the point. You never stop learning. Thank you for joining us and sharing the information on this initiative. I'm sure that as it moves on, we can talk more. Thank you, Tim, too, for sharing your perspective as a dad. Well, question. Can you get HIV from mosquito bites? We'll be back in a moment with the answer to that and other questions about HIV/AIDS, prevention, testing, and treatment. You won't want to miss this. It's estimated that 50% of Virginians living with HIV/AIDS are not in care. Who are they, and what's being done to reach them and anyone else who may be at risk? Earl Felisme is Early Intervention Coordinator for the Urban League of Hampton Roads. Tony Allen Brown is Minority AIDS Initiative Outreach Specialist, also with the Urban League, and they work together quite a bit to promote and educate HIV/AIDS prevention treatment. And they have not only a lot of knowledge between the two of them and experience, but they also have some tools of the trade, and they wanted to share that with you. They have kits for prevention, and these can be brought to a variety of groups depending on who may be interested in it. They can tailor it to your needs as well. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
This is a touchy subject for a lot of people. We don't talk about it a whole lot in general, but even though AIDS may not be in the headlines every single day, it's there every single day. So we still have an epidemic.
Yes.
Yeah. In Virginia, how does that play out? An epidemic in Virginia?
Well, in the Hampton Roads area, which is what we cover, the HIV and STD is very prevalent in our community, and we have high rates for the state of Virginia. Portsmouth is one of the Hampton Roads is one of the highest rates for the whole state.
Okay.
And so our goal is to go out into the community and educate, do prevention education, and also to test. And that's how we work together.
Right. And I can tell they work together very well, because having met them prior, they have a very easy rapport and do a great job. Earl, you came from the D.C. area, which is probably a very good training ground for what it is that you do here. So you bring with you a lot of your own observations and experience to the challenge of reaching populations who may be at risk without saying nobody's at risk. Anybody can be at risk for this. And that, I think, is probably the biggest part of your job is making sure people do open up and receive what it is you have to say.
Yes.
So what do you do to get to people?
Well, these days a lot of people are comfortable in what I call their comfort zone, which is the neighborhood that they're in. They don't like to come out and, you know, just see what's out there for them, the resources, the people that's coming out there to contact them. So we perform various outreach activities. We go into the neighborhoods. We'll go speak to the community service, so that way when we're in the neighborhoods we could actually do HIV counseling and testing in one of the community service rooms, you know, and that's been a great process for us, you know. It's really piecing together, but we still have a lot of work to do, but we will reach a lot of these people.
Okay. And just so you know, and to put it in perspective, they aren't the only group that puts this, goes out into the community, and there are others, but this is certainly an important project. It's something that is needed, and there's never enough of it. So getting to people who are in need, who may not know that there are pathways that they can follow that are going to help them, that it's okay to get treatment, and that it's very important that you do, are things that some people don't want to hear, but you're getting the word out. And part of your education is the testing, which is something that nobody has to necessarily come to them. You can kind of go to them instead and go to the people. So let's talk about that testing. You have a way or a method of doing that takes a relatively short period of time. You want to?
Well, with the Urban League of Hampton Roads, we do what we call is the Oral Quick Rapid Advance Test. This test takes 20 minutes. And what this test actually does is look for any HIV antibodies that could be present in your system. It comes back with 3 possible results. One being negative, meaning no antibodies was found in your system at that time. The second being invalid, meaning the test was either a malfunction and we'll have to take it over again. And the third being positive, also meaning preliminary reactive. And if that occurs, what we usually do is draw the blood just to confirm it and make sure that's what it is. And so my coworker Tony here will take the swab and show exactly how it's meant to be done.
It's very easy. It's like a giant flat Q-tip. And you're going to take one flat side and you're going to put it between your teeth and your gums and you're going to rub it. And then you're going to turn it around and do the bottom.
Doesn't hurt.
Doesn't hurt. No needles.
No needles, okay.
No needles. And then this is put into a solution. And it sits for 20 minutes. And then we have some forms that we go over with questions on it to find out. This is going to assist us in helping you to find what your risk behaviors are. And then we'll sit and have a little discussion on that, how we can make changes so that you are not at risk, how to protect yourself, things that you can do. And you do it one step at a time, because you're not going to immediately change someone's life. But you give them the tools that can help them change their lives. Let me stick this in here.
So that you could probably put that into the whole category of myths, like testing. Doesn't necessarily involve needles, so you've got something. The fear factor can keep a lot of people from actually getting something or doing something about this, and getting beyond that and breaking through that barrier this is one way to do it, is to bring it along.
There are many people that have big fears of needles. So.
Yeah. And there's this one thing I asked the question, can you get HIV from mosquito bites?
A lot of people get that from needles, because one of the ways that HIV is transmitted is through sharing of needles. Yes. And that's needles of any kind, not just needles for IV drug use. We have needles through tattooing. You have needles through piercing. Some people do vitamin shots, steroids. You don't want to share needles of any kind. So people identify that with a mosquito, like, well, if you're not supposed to do that, then mosquitoes must be able to transmit HIV. This is so untrue. There would be millions more people. I mean, come on, think about it. We have a lot of mosquitoes here in Hampton Roads, especially the Virginia Beach area. You know, so it is so untrue. And it's these fears and stigmas that keep the I'm trying to think.
Well, yeah,
it keeps the fear. It keeps the fear of going to find out.
Yeah,
getting that test.
And it can be done. It can be done, and it doesn't hurt to do it. In fact, we have a little video I'd like to run while we have time on people that have gone through the process of being treated, but what they've experienced along the way. So take a look, and I think you'll see how this can change people and can change the community and the world.
I think it probably always be uncomfortable telling your partner, even if you speak in a public forum, because once you get intimate with somebody, it matters to you, you know. And I don't mean sexual, I mean intimate with somebody. It matters to you how they perceive you. So it comes difficult to tell them that you are, especially if they are not. There's another level, and I call it living with, and then I call it living through. Because when you're going through, that's when you go to the doctors, you speak out, you accept, you know it's your responsibility. You're not afraid anymore. You're not bold with it, you know, because I still struggle when I get involved in relationships with making sure that I tell that party what I tell that party. One is because I don't want to be with anybody that don't want to be with me. I'm better than that today.
And I got them all together for Christmas. My family, then my aunt's children, then another aunt's children. And I say, I'd like to tell y'all that your cousins have HIV and AIDS. And after I said that and I explained to them where I got it from, I can feel each one of them. As I looked around, I saw the sadness, I saw the content, I saw the tears. They still having family issues, and I just think it's such a shame that we're still having first thing is on stigma is family still.
I moved in with Sister Lloyd in 2000.
And get them in the care.
Okay, so the goals and testing of HIV is really what we need to drive home. Yes. Quickly if you can. The
goal of prevention education and testing is to find those that are HIV infected and get them into care. There are so many people out there that are walking around with HIV and do not know it.
Okay.
And the only way you're going to know it is to get tested.
Right. And you can contact the Urban League. You can contact you, Earl,
yes,
and also Tony. The two of you work together and can bring kits, prevention kits tailored to members' needs. And this can be any age.
Any age, any place. Okay. Churches, community centers, health fairs, community events.
Okay. That's it. Great. I'm sorry we couldn't stay longer, but we know at least we got that point across, and that's what's important.
Thank you for having us.
All right. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next time.